New Haven, CT's Highway to Nowhere and the Myth of Reconnecting Neighborhoods. In 1972, when I moved to New Haven, there was a vacant strip of land between the two multi-lane sides of the Route 34 extension. In reality, the Route 34 connector does not go to Route 34. It is just a highway where the Oak Street connector dumps cars beyond the exit ramps of Interstates 91 and 95 to El Grasso Boulevard. Bordering these lanes are two shabby neighborhoods, West River and The Hill. That empty, untended strip was a silent witness to the displacement of immigrant and ethnic communities in New Haven. I knew that both neighborhoods were traditionally black, and that New Haven had a history of racial disruption at the end of the 1960s which resulted in rioting and looting. These events culminated in the trial of Black Panther Bobby Seale for first-degree murder. How did an idyllic New England city with a tradition of New England green and home to one of the most prestigious universities in the country become a site of racial riots and a trial of a notorious Black Panther? A streetcar city with large factories and industries, New Haven saw a large influx of immigrants, and the city changed during the industrialization of northern cities, the World Wars, and the Depression. I knew that New Haven had a history of redlining, racially motivated housing discrimination, that grew out of the housing and loan programs of the 1930s and 40s New Deal of President Roosevelt. What I did not realize was that the empty space between those two black neighborhoods housed not only blacks but also immigrant factory workers, who were mostly Irish, Italian, Jewish and Eastern European. Interestingly, on the Notice to Housing and Loan Commission maps, Italians are the most frequently named infringing nationality. The white immigrants relocated outside the city to neighboring suburbs, with the black residents remaining within the city limits. In fact, by the beginning of the 1960s, the white populations of New Haven had decreased by 16%, while the remaining predominantly black residents crowded into less land and less housing. The history of this process starts with Eisenhower's Interstate State Highway. Refocusing on the United States after World War II, Eisenhower addresses the rise of the automobile, the safety issues, and nation building through its program.
A modern highway system is essential to meet the needs of our growing population, our expanding economy, and our national security. We are accelerating our highway improvement program under existing state and federal laws and authorizations. But this effort will not, in itself, assure our people of an adequate system. This problem has been carefully considered by the Conference of State Governors and by a special advisory committee on a national highway program, composed of leading private citizens.
So the 1950s of Oak Street was the most densely populated neighborhood in New Haven. It was racially integrated with African American residents, and so it was a very poor and struggling neighborhood, but very full of life, very vibrant, and almost self-sustainable. You sort of could buy everything you needed within the neighborhood.
This process of building the interstates and simultaneously clearing slums and urban blight was not unique to New Haven. Almost all those cities on the HOLC maps experience some version of connection to the rest of America by interstates and urban renewal. What was unique about New Haven is the amount of monies they procured from the federal government and the ambitions of Mayor Richard Lee's plan to rebuild New Haven into a model city with increased tax revenues. However, that was not the outcome of this process. Instead of a vibrant downtown with revenues from shopping and events, a sea of parking lots was created. By the 1970s, construction had been halted in New Haven, and the Oak Street connector and the RT-34 extension divided ethnic neighborhoods from each other without any passage between neighborhoods. This area was left undeveloped from the 1970s to 2014, when a plan to reconnect neighborhoods was introduced by Mayor John DeStefano. This drive-through transverses the Hills section of New Haven and starts at the border of the demolished Oak Street and Route 34 connector. The Hill is home to Yale New Haven Hospital, which employs 15,000 people, the Yale School of Medicine, and Union Station. The New Haven line of Metro North currently transports 80,000 people daily. The background music is In the Still of the Night, which is a 1954 doo-wop song, recorded in the basement of a New Haven church by the Five Saddles, local New Haven residents. The voices speaking are former inhabitants of Oak Street prior to its demolition and present a remembrance of that community.
My mom raised us more or less by herself, collaborative. They talked about urban renewal, and on Oak Street, we lived in a store. I didn't really realize how poor I was because we did have different kinds of neighbors.
In my day, we had the neighborhood.
That's cool.
If John Martin was lost and Mrs. Martin wanted to find John, she didn't call 911. She called next door and said, "Did you see Johnny?" No. And your neighbor would call him and that was the sense of neighborhood. If you were broke, your neighbor might lend you a couple of bucks. Charlie Butch at this corner meat market and grocery store, he would have a little piece of paper there with your name on it. You know, when you got a few bucks, you'd pay Charlie. People started to accumulate a few bucks, and I decided I would like to move out of the city where I could have a driveway for my car. That's another thing. Before World War II, there weren't that many vehicles.
I mean, there was no highway either, so all the trucks had to go through there, going to New York and
Down
everything.
Route 1, which was Columbus Avenue.
Columbus Ave.
Which, unbelievable to see the trucks that used to roll through there at night.
It must have been crowded, dense, noisy.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
But they would start rolling at night, and they would, during the day, not bad at all. But at night, it was Route 1.
But
what happened there, John?
Yeah.
You knocked all the little businesses out.
Yeah.
Now, Oak Street, predominantly Jewish neighborhood. And delicatessens, chicken market, hardware stores, all that got destroyed.
I remember going to other kids' houses to play. We played outside. My mother worked at Winchester, where they made bullets and guns and things of that. And she'd bring bullets home. And what we would do is, my brother, a little bit older than me, he would take the bullets, put in a big garbage can in the back of the yard, and we would duck the bullets firing through the trash cans.
I came from a family of 12, and I am number 11. My parents came up from Greenville, North Carolina. The backyard had a pear tree and a grapevine in it, and I loved that house. We would make as much noise as we wanted to outside and on the third floor and on the second floor. And I could look through the chain link fence and see the park on East Street, and that was around the corner. And I cried when we moved from there. So my family lived in this, our house was removed for this professional building to go up in the parking lot in the back. And I thought that was strange. Was devastated when we had to leave it. But they changed it into Department of Transportation.
In 2014, New Haven was on the verge of making a deal with a Canadian developer to create a massive mixed-use structure. Last week, I drove through that area, and the overspill parking lot for Union Station has been replaced with the foundations and shell for this mixed-economy housing. This project would remove the massive, ill-conceived 1950s highway that walls off the district from the railroad station, Yale's extensive nearby medical complex, and a formerly black and ethnic neighborhood known as The Hill.
In New Haven, The Hill to the downtown area coming to life. There are 7 projects in the works right now. These spots are being transformed into apartments, retail shops, and restaurants. Nearly 550 apartment units going into this neighborhood. News 8's Noel Gardner takes a look at the big buildup.
It's reknitting a neighborhood in New Haven, connecting the downtown area with the School of Medicine and the hospital to the Hill neighborhood. And the train station and trying to help that become a real community again.
I think it's great. I think it's great. You know, we need to bring people down to New Haven.
Those who work in the growing medical district say they need more parking.
I think it's great as long as they provide parking.
I work here in this office building, and I just had to walk a couple blocks over here to get to my job.
Fontana says each site will be useful and unique with a combination of restaurants, apartments, offices, and storefronts.
That would be great for us, yeah, because we only have one little coffee shop over here, and then you have to go into downtown New Haven.
We're going to have more business and more opportunities to walk around and buy different things.
We want New Haven to be a place that's working 12 months out of the year. So having people who live downtown year-round can help create that density, that excitement.
When I started this curatorial research in August, this construction had not yet started. The housing and the development of crossroads and parking have really progressed, as you can see from this report from a local news channel and my video showing a newly created West River Peace Park. According to one newspaper, the pressure to remove the highway suggests that things have come full circle, except that this time it is being done in the name of helping neighborhoods, even though it will mostly benefit big real estate interests. The Oak Street Connector and the Route 34 extension, in the words of Professor William Domhoff, highlight once again that New Haven is one of many failing American cities whose neighborhoods were destroyed over a 50 to 60-year period by greedy elites intent on preserving their land values through the use of city, state, and federal subsidies to build venues that end up losing money. The current plans cater to pharmaceutical companies, hospitals, their employees, and Yale University. These landowners are still rich, and the city is still poor, and they are still using bailouts to keep their game going.